Good morning. Let me begin by saying what an honor and privilege it is for me to be with you this morning and to be serving as president of Bevill State Community College. And I pray that my voice finds you and your families doing well during this time of the pandemic. I know that we, as the Bevill State family, we were so excited to welcome students back on our campus, on our multiple campuses, January 25th, bringing that life and vitality back to our grounds and buildings. Um, but what an honor it is for me and a privilege for me to be a part of this program here today. I want to first say we acknowledge and celebrate Black History daily, not just during the month of February. There are countless contributions by so many African Americans to this great country of ours, and we thank each and every one of them for their contribution and their sacrifices. Uh, it would be difficult, though, for if you don't mind, please mute your microphones so we don't have the background noise. Thank you so much. But as I was saying, it would be difficult for us to ever have this program without acknowledging the gentleman who started it all here at Bevill State, and that is Mr. Tyrone Webb. So if you'll bear with me for just a minute, I am going to share my screen with you. Mr. Tyrone Webb retired from Bevill State on December the 7th, 2018 as the Assistant Dean for Library and Learning Resources. He came to Bevill State in 1989 after serving several years as a librarian at three different K through 12 school systems and then as an assistant principal at Huffman High School. He was an influential figure here at this college for the last 29 years of his career. Mr. Webb started the library at the Bevill Summerton campus from scratch, from the furniture and the shelves to the books to the circulation system. But it was also Mr. Webb who started the Black History program at Bevill some 20 years ago. On February the 14th, 2001 was the first program. His particular focus was to ensure that students were educated on the contributions of so many African Americans to this great nation. He grew up in Selma, and as a child vividly remembered the fight African Americans waged to gain the civil liberties entitled to every American citizen. Mr. Webb told the Daily Mountain Eagle in an interview in February of 2018, quote, "The upcoming generation seems to know less about their African American heritage and the contributions of Black people in general. Black history is a part of American history. It is a part of world history, and it needs to be told and retold again and again." Tyrone Webb is no longer with us. Mr. Webb passed away on May 27th of 2020. But as I said earlier, it is impossible for us to conduct our annual Black History program without thinking of Tyrone. So today we say thank you, Tyrone Webb, for starting this program and ensuring its success that continues today and into tomorrow. At this time, if you would join me for a moment of silence in remembering Tyrone Webb. Thank you. And God bless and thank you, Tyrone. Okay. At this time, I have the honor and privilege of introducing our guest speaker for the day, Mr. Adonis Lenzy. Adonis is an author, speaker, podcaster, and TV show host who enjoys speaking to people from all walks and stages of life, inspiring them to live the life they have imagined and going after their dreams. Whether Adonis is speaking at conferences, organizations, churches, to organizational staffs, his message will no doubt inspires, motivates, and equips for next level living. Adonis currently resides in Nashville, the Nashville, Tennessee area with his wife, Heather, and their two beautiful children, Grayson and Carrington. So, Mr. Adonis, so glad to have you here with us today, and I am going to make you the host.
Okay.
I remember how to do so.
Gotta love technology.
All right, it is yours, sir.
Well,
Thank you.
thank you all so much for inviting me to be a part of your program. It's an honor, and I feel honored to be a part of this. So I just want to say a huge shout out and thank you to all those that had a hand in playing into inviting me to be a part of this. And I always like to start off by getting a little feedback. And we did this yesterday, but let me know how the weather is in your neck of the woods right now. I'm in Nashville. The weather is sunny. It's a little cool this morning, but we'll take it over the snow. But if you're online right now, let me know. Put it in the chat right now. Let me know how the weather is. Somebody said glorious, sunny, warm. I love that word, glorious. We're gonna have a glorious day. Sunshine, blue skies. Love it. It's beautiful. Better today than yesterday. All right, you guys are rocking. You're awesome. You're awesome. Thank you for that. I'm going to share my screen with you guys. If you give me a moment as we kick this thing off, and we're gonna have a great time. Let me share this with you guys. Here we go. Okay. All righty. There you go. Let's see here. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Okay, guys, Black History Program. We're talking about the Black family. And I love this. I love your theme of your program. We're going to have a lot of fun today. But as I think about Black history, it's a time of honoring and celebrating those that have paid the price and paved the road for all of us today. They made great sacrifices and they pushed through. And I want us to talk a lot about that today as we move forward. Guys, one of the things I always like to do, no matter what audience I'm speaking to, I always like to give something away to my audience. So if you're watching today, I want you to lock in, pay close attention, because at the end of this session, I'm going to show you how you can enter your name into a drawing for a chance to win a free copy of my book, Next. What you do, we know there's something more, great motivational, inspirational book that will help you reach your dreams and goals in life. But you got to hang in there with me, pay close attention. And at the end of this, I'll show you how you can enter for a chance to win that book. But, you know, I can't think of a greater person to start off with one of his quotes as we talk about Black history than Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. One of his favorite quotes of mine that I believe it sets the tone of Black history. It kind of reflects on what the African American has gone through over a period of history. And as we talk about history, I want you to keep in mind, history's made every single day. Yes, we can reflect in the past, but as we move forward every day, we're making history, we're learning from history, and we're paving new paths for other generations to come. So Martin Luther King Jr. said it this way. He said, the ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in moments of comfort and convenience, but where he stands at times of challenge and controversy. And I'm telling you, when I think of the African-American history, I think of challenging times. I think of great controversy. I think of great struggles that were going on. But yet, as we're going to talk about today, it produced such a strength and a faith in our Black community, in our Black race that is evident today as we move forward into our program. As we talk about representation, I love your theme. Once again, representation is the description or portrayal of someone or something in a particular way or as being a certain nature, okay? And I think as we talk about the Black family, we must start with two icons of the Black family. That's the Black father and the Black mother. And as we dive into those today, we will see how history has taught us and educated us and shown us who we are today. As we talk about Black fatherhood, I love this little saying here, this little picture, this meme. It says, a father said to his son, be careful where you walk. The son responded, you be careful, Dad. I walk in your footsteps. And I'm telling you, that is so true today. As I think about my grandfather and my dad, how, they were great African-American men that set an example for me. And I think that's a part of our history as we look back and we learn that fathers were committed to their families. They showed their sons how to love, honor, and respect women. I know a lot of things as you look at today's society and you would say, well, how is that? No, that's who we are. And as we go back in history and we begin to see great things that were put on the inside of us, it inspires us and it challenges us to replicate things that we've seen in history. As I saw how my grandfather took care of his family, my dad took care of his family, and showing honor and respect to women. One of the things I do as an African-American father to my son, I want to be that role model. I want to show him every single day affection that I give to my mother, to his mother, affection that I show my wife. He needs to see that as an example. When she comes home from work or when I come home, she's the first person I go up to in the house to hug and embrace and kiss because I want my children to see a strong father loving his wife. And I think that is so important today, and that's part of our history. And I believe another thing in our history is a strong work ethic. Okay, as I think about the country that we live in today was built, as you look at history, it was built on the backs of African Americans and forging and building and I'm telling you, that's a strong work ethic that can be evident in all of us today as we learn from history, because that's in us, that strong work ethic. And not only just the work ethic, but it's that that tenacity to do what we have to do in order to be there for our family, to do what we have to do in order to take care of our family, because we know our family is our responsibility. As we talk about fatherhood, great example, my great grandfather. There he is in the picture there. This picture was, of course, taken many years ago. He's passed away and gone on. But that's him and his little singing group. They would travel around and sing gospel music. But I remember the stories he used to tell me as a young boy. I'd sit on his lap and he would always instill into me to be strong no matter what, to be tenacious no matter what. To push through any struggle that life would throw me, to push through any adversity that life would send my way. And he told me this one story. I'm going to share it with you today. And you'll probably remember this for the rest of your life through your journey. I hope it encourages you as it has encouraged me over the years. But he told me this story of how one day he lost his job. He got laid off. And he wasn't just going to sit at home and cry and moan and complain, but he went out on the search for work anywhere he could find it. And he found a rice plant that was 5 miles away from his house. So he got up one morning, walked to that rice plant, talked to the foreman and asked him, did he have any job openings? And the foreman said, no, I'm not hiring anybody. You can go home. And the next day, my great-grandfather made a decision that he was going to go back to that rice plant. And for 2 solid weeks, this is what he did. This was his routine. He'd wake up every morning. He'd fix himself a lunch and put it in his lunch pail. He'd walk 5 miles to that rice plant, and he would stand on the hill and he would look down over the rice plant and watch all the workers throughout the day. He'd stand at attention. At their lunch break, he noticed all the workers sat down and ate their lunch, and he sat down on that hill and he opened up his lunchbox and he began to eat his lunch. When the whistle went off for everybody to go back to work, he closed up his lunch pail, stood up at attention for the rest of that work day. At the end of the work day, when the workers went home, he would walk home.
Yeah.
He did that for 2 solid weeks.
Okay.
As he stood on that hilltop, people called him all kind of names, all kind of racial slurs every single day, but he endured for 2 solid weeks. At the end of that 2 weeks, the foreman walked up to
I don't know. I'm just seeing on session. You're going to start video.
He looked him in the eye and he called him sir. Now I love that because for 2 solid weeks, my great-grandfather had been called all kind of names, all kind of racial names. But at the end of that 2 weeks, because he persevered and he pushed through the struggle, the foreman walked up, looked my great-grandfather in the eye and said, sir. He said, I can see you want a job. And he hired my great-grandfather that day. And the story goes on, my great-grandfather outworked every worker in that rice plant to eventually the foreman gave him a position of authority. And I love that because that's something in my history, but that's something that I still live from today, and I pass that on to my children. And I think we can all learn from this kind of history and apply that to our life today to push through the struggle. So as I think about Black fatherhood, I think about stories like my great-grandfather that has taught me how to push through every struggle that life will throw my way. As we go on to continue to talk about fatherhood, I think we can't continue to discuss that without bringing in motherhood, which is another vital key element to the Black family. And I love this quote by Maya Angelou. She said, to describe my mother would be to write about a hurricane in its perfect power. And I love that because as I think about Black motherhood in my history, in my past, seeing my grandmothers, my mother, it reminds me of this quote. I think about strong women. I think about women that had a mental and a physical strength that could bear up under pressure, that could get the job done no matter what, that took care of their children. They were like that. They were like that mother bear that made sure that no harm would come to their children. I think about the strong faith in God. That's part of our history as well, because there were many times that that Black mother had no one to depend on but God, and God showed up and showed out. And I'm not preaching a message here today, but I'm saying this is part of our history, our faith in God. Faith that God would get us through, faith that God would see us through the adversity and give us strength in times where we were weak, give us that mental strength in times where we felt like quitting. I also think about, when I think about Black motherhood, I think about them being respected by their children, demanding respect. Okay, that was something that is deeply a part of my history. We echo that to our children, the importance of respect, and we don't let them get away with disrespect. And I got some stories to share as I think about my history, because we can all learn from our history, guys. We learn from going way back into history, but also within our families. That history is still living on and is educating us and is teaching us every single day of our lives. As I think about my 2 grandmothers, they're both have passed on and they passed away, but they were great women, mighty women, strong women. As I think about the one on the left there, Otha Lee Temple. She was a God-fearing woman. Her husband, my grandfather, passed away at the age of 35. I never met my grandfather, and she was left to raise 5 children on her own. But she did it. She was strong. She had a faith in God, and she wanted to make sure that her children not only just grew up, but that they were productive, that they contributed to society, that they were well educated. But she did that on her own as a single mother. And there were many times where she had to really rely on her faith in God to get her through. She shared a story with me one day as I talk about her strong faith as part of my heritage. She shared a story. There was a moment to where she was working 2 jobs. And even in the midst of that, she hit a season where she couldn't provide food. She had ran out of food. The kids were hungry. And she told me this story that, she prayed one night and she was like, God, you're going to have to provide some food. I need you to provide some food for me. And she was a woman of faith. She got up the next morning and she walked down that long hallway into her kitchen. And she said, God, I need you to provide some food. And she got out all of her pots and pans and she filled one of her pots up with water and she put it on the stove and she turned on the burner and stood there in the kitchen watching the water boil. Didn't have any groceries, but she had faith in God. And she said, God, I need you to provide some food so my family can eat. And moments later, just a few moments later, she heard a knock at the door and she walked over to the door. And as she opened the door, there was a friend of hers that she hadn't seen in a while. And she said, Miss Temple, I was at the grocery store and something just told me to get you some groceries. And she had 2 big bags of groceries in her arms and handed that to my grandmother. And I love that story because those are stories that she passed on to me and that I passed on to my children. So when they hit hard times, they will know to have that strong belief in God, that God will be there for them. As I think about my grandmother, Viola Johnston, she was the grandmother that strong and raised her children and loved her grandkids. But she didn't take no mess from anybody. She didn't take mess from her kids or her grandkids. And I learned that firsthand. I remember being at the grocery store with her one day and I looked and in our same aisle was this little kid, looked about my age. His name was, it was Johnny, because I heard his mama call him Johnny. And Johnny reached for a candy bar and his mama said, Johnny, you can't have that. And Johnny threw a fit, fell out in the floor in the middle of the aisle. It embarrassed his mom. And his mom was like, okay, baby, you can have it. You okay, Johnny? Okay, go ahead, just be quiet. And I looked at that and I thought, whoa, man, if that works for Johnny, maybe it'll work for me, okay? And so we kept going down. I saw something I wanted, a piece of candy, and I reached for that. And my grandmother said, no, Adonis, you can't have that. And so I acted like Johnny. Yelled at my grandmother. I said, well, I want that. I don't care. And I threw a fit. And I don't remember anything after that because she slapped me so hard, I think she slapped my memory away, okay? I don't remember anything, okay? But she taught me a lesson there, okay? How not to disrespect your elders or people in authority. And I think that is a great lesson for all of us right there, how to respect people in general. How to respect authorities, how to respect your school teachers, how to respect your elders. That is such a key lesson that my grandmother passed down to me. I saw some of you laughing. That's funny, but I don't remember. Okay, I'm telling you. Okay, even to this day, I woke up and back in the car, we're headed back home. But she taught me a lesson. But I believe those are lessons that we can all learn, and from my history that I'm sharing with you guys today, which is a part of my Black history, but it benefits everybody, not just Black people, but all people can learn from all different races and their history. And that's why I love the opportunity to share these stories with you guys today. As we move forward into another one of your themes, as we talk about identity. Okay, now hone in with me here because it's going to get good. As we talk about identity, it's the fact of being who or what a person or thing is. Okay, your identity is who you are. Okay, now here's a quote I want you to just etch in your memory from this moment on. Okay, listen, never let your struggle become your identity. Okay, that is so key. You guys need to remember this, write it down, take a screenshot, do something. Never let your struggle become your identity. Okay, because in life, guess what? We're going to go through many struggles. We're going to go through some ups and downs. We're going to have some setbacks. We're going to have some times where we crash and burn, where we fail, where we mess up. That's a part of the journey. That's a part of life. That's a part of the struggle. But don't let that become your identity. As I think about African-American history, and I think about our identity, I cannot help but think about Black Wall Street, okay? Black Wall Street in early 1900s, it was the wealthiest Black community in the United States, located in Tulsa, Oklahoma. If you've never heard of Black Wall Street, do yourself a favor, okay? Later on today, make sure you Google that and research that. This was an African-American community that owners, they were leaders in their community, okay? Had many businesses, entrepreneurs. They had strong family units, okay? Strong family units that were productive in society. They were productive, meaning they weren't just sitting around waiting for somebody to do something or waiting for a handout. No, they were productive. They were producing. They were adding to society. And I love that about Black Wall Street. They were progressive. They were thinking outside of the box. They were moving forward all the time. And they were successful. And that's something I believe as we educate our younger generation, our Black population, our white population, Hispanic, all different populations, we can learn from this part of Black history is that, listen, there's greatness on the inside of you, okay? You can move forward. You can defy the odds. You can push through. And they did all of this during times where racism was rampant. They had a lot to push through, but they did it, okay? And throughout all that, being successful, you know, there will be some times where things happen that can temporarily cause a setback. As Black Wall Street was destroyed in 1921, hate-filled mobs took to the streets and destroyed more than 35 blocks of the Black Wall Street community. They burned homes and burned businesses in that Black community. People were killed within that Black community. Such a sad day in our history. But that day does not define us, okay? It's not our identity. We push through and go back to our building blocks of who we were. And I love that because that African-American community still rose from the ashes and still moves forward. And we can today too. Listen. You know, maybe you're today and you're walking your journey. Maybe you hit a crash and burn moment. Okay. Maybe something you were building crumbled. Okay. That's temporary. You can rise from the ashes. Why? Because of this. Never let your struggle become your identity. Okay. What has happened to you is not who you are. Go back to who you are to push you through any temporary moment of setback and failure. You're more than that. You can overcome. And as we continue to learn from our African-American history, we go back and we find people like Madam C.J. Walker. Man, she's recorded as the first female self-made millionaire in the Guinness Book of World Records. She made hair products. but she was an entrepreneur. She owned a business, and she pushed through in some very hard times of adversity, segregation, racism, things coming against her. She still pushed through and made a contribution to society. And you think about that. She was a business owner, but I guarantee you she had employees that she was helping along the way. See, it's never enough for you just to own something, but who are you helping get to their next level as well? Who are you pushing forward? Who are you paying it forward for? As I think about Garrett Morgan, he's an inventor. I love this, part of our history, our heritage, to be innovative. He was an American inventor. One of his most notable inventions was the 3-position traffic light. Still making contributions. And check this out, he only had a 6th grade education, a 6th grade education, okay? Now here's where, if you have any excuses of why you can't create something, this is where the excuses are off the table. This man had a 6th grade education, and he still pushed through. And that's something you and I can draw from today to empower us, to inspire us to move forward. So as I think about Black Wall Street, as I think about all the African Americans that have done great things and contributed to our society, it leads me to one of the things that I teach my kids, and I'm gonna share this with you. I encourage entrepreneurship with my children. I encourage them to where me and my son, if we walk into a restaurant, he's not just thinking about what food he's gonna eat. He's thinking about the management of that restaurant. He's only 10 years old, but I've encouraged him so much. He'll walk into that restaurant and his questions are, where do they get the food from? Who ships the food to them? How many employees do they have? How much do they pay their employees? I love that because I have him thinking in such a way that I'm encouraging entrepreneurship. I'm doing that because that's part of our African American heritage, our history. And I'm passing that on because people have paid the price. And I'm passing that knowledge on to him. I inspire them for innovation, to be creative, to think outside of the box. I inspire both my children. My daughter's 8 years old, but I inspire both of them. When they want something and it's going to cost them a little extra money, I inspire them. Well, how can you earn that money? What can you do to raise that money? What can you sell? What product can you make and sell it in? I have them thinking in that way. I inspire them to business ownership. And I also inspire them and encourage them to continue their education, school, college, and career. But even beyond the career, one of the things I instill into them, when you reach that level of success, somebody needs to write this down because you're not going to see it on the screen. But if you reach your level of success at the top of the ladder, and if you're there by yourself, you've done it wrong, okay? I encourage my children, when you get to the top of the ladder of success, if you're there by yourself, you've done it wrong. You're supposed to take people with you. You're supposed to pass it along. You're supposed to pay it forward. And I encourage you with that same thought today. And I also let them know, hey guys, when I talk to my children, any level of success is going to take hard work. As I think about African Americans in history that did great things, and it took extra hard work. But guess what? As African Americans, that's part of our heritage. That's part of who we are. That's part of our identity. We are hard workers. And sometimes, people go through life and they forget who they are. But hopefully this talk can refocus you and remind you of who you are. You are a hard worker. This goes for anybody out there that's listening. Listen, there's strength on the inside of you. You're a hard worker. Think about those that have started businesses years ago in hard times, in segregated times, in times of racism, and in times of pushback. Okay, but they worked hard. And if you're going to do anything great, it's going to take some hard work. You can't just sit around and wait for it to happen. You can't sit around and wait for somebody to do it for you. I love this quote by the late, great Kobe Bryant. He says, I can't relate to lazy people. We don't speak the same language. I don't understand you. I don't want to understand you. And one of the things that Kobe Bryant was known for, besides his ability on the court, what you saw on TV, when you saw him playing in a live game, one of the things he was really noted for was his time where he practiced after practice. Practice was over and he's still out there for hours, pushing himself, putting in the hard work. And I want to encourage you students that are watching today, listen, I'm telling you, you're going to have to put in the hard work. You're going to have to dig down deep, draw from the strength of your forefathers and foremothers and your history, your heritage, draw from that, push down deep and keep moving forward. Because listen, what you put in is what you get out. And Kobe Bryant knew that. So I'm reminding you today, listen, it's going to take the hard work. Okay, guys. And then we come to our third theme today, which is diversity. And I love this one here. It's really a part of who I am today, who my family is today. Diversity means the practice or quality of including or involving people from a range of different social and ethnic backgrounds. And I love that because even as we're talking about Black history, I believe every history we can learn from. And it's so important to even venture outside of your race and learn from others. And in my life, in my family, it's one of the things that we focus on so much because I am in an interracial marriage, which means my family is interracial. My kids are interracial kids. I met my wife about 15 years ago. We've been married 13 years this month. We just celebrated our 13th year anniversary on February 16th. And my wife is white, as you can see. She's originally from Wisconsin, small little town in Wisconsin. And when I met her, we were talking, we met at church, and during our dating, my wife was, she told me, she goes, I never saw or met a Black person until I got into, I think she said junior high or high school. And so never in a million years did she think she'd be married to a Black man. And so when we were dating, we were talking, we went through this whole thing of exploring and talking about each other's backgrounds so that we could better understand each other. And it's so key. And I love that because, even with the little things, it's good to know about that person's history. And so here's a little funny story. You guys are gonna love this. If you're tuning in from yesterday, you're really gonna love this because I did not share it. But this is a little funny story talking about diversity. When me and my wife were dating, we did some personality profile tests. We had great accountability partners watching over us, helping us through our dating. And we talked a lot. We asked a bunch of questions, okay? So fast forward, we got married. We went on our honeymoon and we went to a place called St. Lucia. So we were at the beach, at the ocean. So we woke up one day and she wanted to go kayaking, get in the ocean, go for kayaking. And I did not want to go on the kayak. And I'm like, no, let's go do something else. There's a lot of things to do here. And she kept being, persistent. No, I want to go on the kayak. And so, one of the things we didn't talk about in premarital counseling was, I looked at her and I said, babe, I love you, but I said, my people, we don't go in the ocean, and I did that because, man, I'm afraid of sharks, and it's like, that's something. I'm like, my people, we don't do the ocean. And so we laugh about that story, but that's one of those things that it's part of just our culture, who we are, you know. When we go to the beach, my kids love going to the beach because they know they can be out there all day long because mom will be out there with them while it's 100 degrees. Daddy's not laying on the beach tanning. They know that, okay? They know that when the sun goes down, then daddy will come out and be out there on the beach with them all night. And so, but those little funny stories that we share with each other, but it's all about our history and who we are. And so when it comes to diversity, it's important for you to understand cultural differences. You know, have intentional conversations with people who are different than you, you know. Me and my wife really learned this when our kids started growing, and I believe my son was in kindergarten or first grade, and you know we were talking about Black History Month, and he came home from school and he was like, "So, Daddy," uh, in his little young mind, he was like, "So, why did they kill Dr. Martin Luther King? Was it that?" Were there bad people on the bus when the lady sat down? And I love that because it opened up a conversation for me and my son to have in a way that his 5-year-old mind could understand it. And we told him this story of how Dr. Martin Luther King wanted all people to be able to get along and dwell together. And you could see the light bulb going on in my son's eyes. And my wife was sitting next to me, and I said, you know, in fact, Grayson, that's my son's name, I said, Dr. Martin Luther King paved a way for me and your mom to even be together and to produce you. And so we love talking about intentional conversations because they help you understand each other. They help you understand a race outside of your own race. Be open to learning from other cultures, okay? Don't get stuck in a box of your own culture, but be learning. Because my family is diverse, we have somehow drawn a lot of friends around us that are different as well. So when we have a get together, I mean, there's Black people in my house, white, Hispanic, Asian, Korean, Chinese. We've just done that. And we love that because we celebrate each other and we learn from other cultures. And then you got to ask questions. Never be afraid to ask a question. You know, I'm going to close with this story. You know, back last year, when our world was being turned upside down, there was a lot of racial tensions going on. There was COVID going on, a lot of protests going on. And in that season where the Black Lives Matter protests were going on, I think there was a lot of people that were just uncertain about what to say or what to do, or what do I do? A lot of people from different cultures and colors. And I kept asking God, what do you want me to do? How do you want my voice to be impactful to people to help get them through this situation? And, you know, I didn't make a lot of posts on Facebook or social media because those can get misconstrued and taken all out of context. So what I felt God was telling me to do was to reach out to my neighborhood. So I went to our neighborhood community Facebook page. And one evening, I posted a post on our page. And all I said was, hey, I'm going to be sitting outside on my front porch for the next 30 minutes. If anybody wants to come over and have an open, honest conversation about what's going on in our country right now, come on over. About 5 minutes after I posted that, people from my community, my neighborhood, just started walking over. Different colors of people, men, women, and we sat on my front porch for what seemed like hours, having open conversation about how we felt, about our past, our history, And I love that because there was even a man that was sharing about the history. He was a white man sharing about the history from his generation, and how things he'd heard from his grandparents that he didn't agree with, or all this stuff, and tears were flowing. Great conversations. And I encourage you to do that throughout your life, to reach out to those that are different from you. Ask those hard questions, have conversations, get to know each other. My last point of the day, don't forget this, remember that we are all in this together. Okay, guys, listen, I believe that's my time. I've enjoyed speaking to all of you. I hope you've enjoyed this presentation. It's been a privilege and an honor to share with you guys today. And if you want to continue to keep up with me, there's all my social media stuff right there, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. I've got a podcast called Next Steps to Better Days. I've got, if you're familiar with the YouVersion Bible app, I've got several reading plans on that. You can go to that, just search my name, Adonis Lenzy. It'll pull up all of the plans that I have. I encourage you to, get into some of that because it's all encouraging and inspiring. And as I mentioned at the beginning of this, I'm going to give you a chance to enter your name into a drawing to win a free copy of my book. Okay, this is how you do that. Okay, by midnight tonight, for a chance to win, all you got to do, you can hit that QR code. It's going to take you to my website where you can email me, or just go to adonislenzy.com, hit the contact tab, email me one takeaway thought that you got from this presentation today. Just send that to me in an email. And what I'll do after midnight, I'll collect all the names and I'll put them in a hat, and I'll have one of my kids draw the name out for that. So we did it yesterday, and I don't know if this guy is on here, but the winner from yesterday is Ernest Wilkins Jr. My children drew that out of the hat today, so we'll be sending you your book as well. Guys, it's been a pleasure and an honor. I'm going to stop sharing. I think I'm going to try to turn this back over. You see here, I'm making you the host.
Okay, I think it's done there.
There we go.
Adonis, amen to your presentation. Just thank you so much for sharing your inspiring and motivating presentation. It's been great having you yesterday and today. And God bless you and your beautiful family as you guys move forward.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you all. Great group. Appreciate you guys.
Thank you. That concludes our program for today. Thank you guys for joining.